Welcome to session 12 of Coping with COVID-19. My name is Gerry Vassar, President CEO of Lakeside.
I'm Diane Wagenhals, and I am the Program Director for Lakeside Global Institute.
Today's topic is something that we are seeing quite frequently, particularly in the issue of how do we deal with COVID-19 and how we cope. My wife was recently walking in a neighborhood and she saw two children talking to their mom and asking question after question after question after question. And maybe the questions weren't really good questions at the moment. And the mother just went off and started screaming at her children in such a way that, the whole world would shut down. I think one of the things that's interesting is we notice in us a lot less patience, a lot more irritability, and maybe even outbursts, where we say things, do things that we wouldn't normally say or do. Mm-hmm. And of course, if you've had a legacy of anger in our family, it probably is coming out more. So whatever circumstance we're in, anger is a real issue. Mm-hmm. And when we're stressed and having stressors all around us, and we can't get much more stressful than a pandemic and all the impact of that, we can get angry pretty easily. Now, for some reason, you're looking just a little bit different today than you usually do. So maybe we should let you begin to address a very interesting topic of where does anger come from?
I got my little buddies here to help explain anger.
Okay.
And they're sitting here. Obviously, most people would recognize these are
the Hulks.
The Hulks.
Uh-huh.
And what this has to do with our discussion of anger has to do with the brain and what's going on in the brain when a person gets to the place where anger is overtaking them. It's a lot of times it's either subtle, coming in quietly, or it's like a giant wave that hits you and you can be overwhelmed. But either way, what's going on in the brain has to do with two little parts of your brain called the amygdala. You have one on either side, a little behind your eyes, not right there, but they're in your brain. And they are the part of the brain, actually they are functioning in utero by, I think, 7 or 8 months of, the fetus is already have, don't you do it. Okay, you're going to sit on my lap. Come here. Behave yourself. Thank you. The amygdala we have two of them, and they are there because they actually protect us. They take in memories of things that might be dangerous or scary and alert the rest of the brain. The information comes through the brainstem to the amygdala that something's going on the outside world, probably that requires us to be really motivated to lash out, to be protective.
And we recognize that through our 5 senses.
Yes.
And then our brainstem sends signals to this amygdala.
What happens if you have chronic anger, if you have anger that's happening all the time, if you're almost always on the edge of anger, is that instead of your anger being a small part of your brain, it's like it turns into hulks. When you get triggered and you're now suddenly or slowly, but you get to a place of enormous anger, it's as if your amygdala has become this.
So it starts small and it's in a normal framework, and when it's chronic, it's huge.
It's huge. And probably this is where people who I think have been impacted by trauma can actually have anger issues because of the losses that are around, the injustices that are around. And when we've talked about this already with the pandemic, there's so many losses, and it does seem unfair. And for many people, those are going to be signals that are going to set off a whole chain reaction. And if you have issues around anger, you've got some hulks inside that just come flying out.
So normally it might be a little being. All of a sudden, when there's so much of the stress and so many issues that are unmanageable, they become the Hulk.
Yeah.
And we get really angry.
Yeah. We were talking about the movie where there's this great scene, and since I haven't seen the movie, can you describe what happens in that scene?
About the Hulk?
Yeah. when he says he's apologizing to the other superhero about
And
being
he goes,
angry.
I'm so angry.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, that one. That movie, yes.
Yes. And that's I think people can really relate to how that sensation, if you're even aware that you're angry.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes I think people often don't know they're angry. Or they may know they're angry, but they don't think anybody else realizes they're angry or how angry they are. If you say to them later on, my goodness, you really were yelling, and I wasn't yelling, Yeah, actually you were. That's why the dog, the cat, and all the kids are hiding under the kitchen table right now. Yeah, you got, it was really coming out. So sometimes it just sneaks up on people and they're not even aware.
So there's this Hulk-like force that's growing in us at times when this anger
Erupts.
explodes.
Yes.
And I'm sure some of us internalize it, some of us externalize it, depending on how we're wired temperament-wise. But what do we do if that's feeling like I'm getting angry and I'm growing into a Hulk-like reaction that may be really unhealthy? I mean, do I have any control of this?
If it's full-blown rage attack and you're out of control, it's kind of hard to just jump in. But yes, the answer is yes.
I can't take it back.
Right.
Okay.
But you can circumvent it, especially if you plan ahead of time for how you're going to manage it when you start to you can almost get like the inkling that you can feel that it's coming. Mm-hmm. That's a time to actually have your action plan of what will you do, because most people don't want to hurt somebody, and we don't want our anger to be hurting.
Right, right.
There's constructive anger, which means my anger is a signal. You don't want to use your anger as a weapon.
I'm trying to prevent my child from being run over by a car, and I'm intensely angry enough to move out and do something.
What's the anger actually about?
Yeah.
I'm afraid,
Yeah.
and I'm overwhelmed by fear, but the fear comes out as anger.
Okay.
So how fearful are we right now? When you lose control, when we feel so powerless right now, that can evoke angry feelings, almost defensively, almost like I can at least I'm familiar with how I feel when I'm angry. So you can manage anger, because the thing about anger in terms of the cause of all anger,
Okay.
anger comes from thoughts.
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was somebody else doing something that
Don't
makes
make me angry.
It's that person over there that does it. It can't be me. It's not thoughts. Come on.
But it is.
So then what do we do with thoughts?
We can manage thoughts. We can recognize thoughts. We can honor thoughts. We can say, I have just been triggered because I think something is true.
So there's an intervention step I can take
Yes.
to manage this. And I'm
Yes.
sure it is probably getting myself out of the brainstem and into my cognitive space, right?
Right.
So that I have now control over what's going on and I'm not victim to the emotion
Right.
or to the
I
thoughts.
don't want to have them rule me.
Right. Right.
Or
We don't
even
want
little ones that are just like
Yeah.
the smoke detectors in my brain that are letting me know there's danger. I don't want them to be in charge. I actually have right here.
So Sue've got some tools in front of you that
I
says, what can I do to get
imagine.
myself to be cognitive? I knew you had that. I knew.
I'm going to sit my little friends here.
Okay.
There's some line in a movie, meet my little friend somewhere, isn't? Oh, well.
Rabbit trail. Go ahead.
I know. Me and my rabbit trails. Me and some questions that you can ask when you are angry, that you ask yourself. What's causing this? Where's this coming from? Is it, and get very objective about it. Like, what are the facts? Is it about something seems unfair, or it's about danger, or somebody's being disrespectful? What let me think about where this is where it's coming from, and that it's a signal. I'm getting a signal because I can feel the anger, but I don't want to do damage. I want to attend to it, pay attention to it, but I don't want to hurt anybody.
Okay.
What do I want to be sure then not to do, or what do I want to be sure to do? And this is where you want to decide ahead of time that you will not use your anger as a weapon to hurt somebody, and that you're going to control that.
So you have a strategy that you're going to evoke, sort of like we talked about those safety plans. When you feel
Right.
anger rising, here's what I'm going to do or not do.
And I don't want my amygdala to hijack me. That's a Daniel Goleman, a person that's mostly known for the amygdala hijacking concept. I'm not going to let my amygdala take over and hijack me. If it starts, I'm going to get back up in my cortex, do what I need to do. And I have a strategy. Is it take a deep breath? Is it walk away? Is it do something that reminds me I want to stay in control? Who wants to be out of control? Which is a lot. It's almost a scary feeling to feel like you're so out of control. What am I needing right now? And how reasonable are those needs? Am I expecting my little child to, and you can fill in the blank.
I want those people to stop making me angry. That's what I need right now.
There you go. Are you listening? But that whole, what are you expecting? And how reasonable are expectations? I remember reading in Briggs, Your Child's Self-Esteem, and she said in there, so much of what happens that's negative to us is we have unfair, unreasonable expectations that they don't belong. If you expect something and it's not fair, you're going to get angry when the expectations aren't met.
Yeah, that reminds me of the nature of children discussion, when we're expecting children to be adults when they really are in their own development age, whatever age and stage.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be that no matter what we expect. So,
Right.
Right.
Another one is, where is my power? And we've talked about that in the past. To recognize if I'm feeling powerless, sometimes that makes me feel angry, because at least with anger, I feel like some energy is coming up. If I feel powerless, that's like, oh no.
And I never want to be a victim. And if I've been a victim in the past, that's even higher threat.
Yeah.
Right.
We also can think about what is our responsibility. And if you take responsibility, you need to take responsibility for yourself as an adult. And decide, again, this is decisions you make ahead of time.
Right. Right. Some
So-
forethought.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think if you do those kinds of things, that's going to put you in a really good place.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
you go.
So there's some thoughts. I'm hearing that sometimes unexpected situations come. We're not prepared. And they tap our amygdala and from the brainstem up, and we get Hulk-like. It's the reaction is even greater than we thought it would be. And one way that we can manage that even better is than allowing us to be victimized by thoughts that are throwing us into anger, is for us to ask questions, the ones that you mentioned, so that we can get ourselves back to a cognitive place where we're a little more logical, we're a little more reasonable, and we have better control.
And we're not supposed to go around ranting and raving as if that's going to release it, as if it's like, just let your anger out. I have to get rid of it. That is not true.
Huh.
There have been enough studies on that. In fact, in Boys Town years ago, they did some studies where instead of the boys acting out, they were told they couldn't, and if they were getting to a place of anger, they needed to go somewhere and regulate, because how much of anger is dysregulation? So allowing it almost is somehow rehearsing the anger and somehow making the anger grow.
Tell me one more issue, and we'll end here. How long does it take me to get over a fit of rage?
Okay. So from what I've read, there are actually two neurochemicals, brain chemicals, that go off inside when you get angry.
Right.
And I'm not going to try to say the names because they're hard to say.
They're enzymes, they're chemicals.
They're
right.
chemicals in
Okay.
your brain. The first one that goes off can last in your system for about 10 minutes or so. So you know the old adage, count to 10? Mm-hmm. It ain't going to work.
You need a little bit longer than that.
You need a little bit longer to let it, once you're quieting down, you can take a good 10 minutes, 20 minutes even, and that will eventually kind of work its way out.
Okay, so that first
Surge
surge
Right,
of
right.
chemical
of hormones.
takes about, we'll say, allow 20 minutes to get
20
out.
minutes is a
All
good
right.
amount of time.
And then what?
If you're really getting to this kind of anger and it's really, really deep, it can take a couple days for that hormone to come out. Looking
that-
at 48 hours to 72 hours.
So that means we're probably more predisposed to another
Exactly.
outbreak.
And I remember one of the students at Lakeside who learned this. I remember the teacher coming back after I taught this and saying that she had an experience and she became aware, because she was now understanding, that she was sure she dumped that second chemical in. And a day later, when there was some kind of an altercation or something and she felt herself getting pulled into it, she was actually able to say to herself, wait a minute, I'm now running on that second wave inside of me of the hormones I dosed myself with. I need to step away from this because that's what's fueling my anger right now. It was like, wow.
So really helpful to know that I can't, it's not like a light switch.
No.
The chemicals are coming, you've got to deal with it, and it's sometimes the first surge, 20 minutes, the second surge, a couple of days where you can be hijacked again.
Yes.
And angry again.
Yeah.
So there you go, with all that you could ever want to know about anger, and we hope that we can help you with the Hulk within all of us to manage that better in the midst of a very difficult pandemic that can make us very angry.
I think all pandemics are difficult.
I think, probably so. Probably so.
Are you angry at me?
No. Give me that Hulk. No. Thank you so much for joining us for this session of Coping with COVID-19. We hope that's been helpful to you.